When you're staring at a blank screen and wondering whether a new soundbar will actually change the feel of your evenings, the hesitation is real. You've probably seen a dozen slick ads promising cinema-grade audio, and you're left wondering if you'll end up with a set of speakers that sound good in the showroom but fall flat in your living room. That's why I want to walk through the LG S80TY the way a cautious buyer would, looking at how it handles dialogue, whether the bass feels natural, how the virtual surround works in a typical apartment, and if the remote and Bluetooth connections actually make life easier. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the core promise of any 3.1.3 sound system: a more immersive movie night without having to mount speakers all around the room. The S80TY pairs a central bar with a wireless subwoofer and adds height channel drivers that claim to deliver Dolby Atmos and DTS decks. In practice, the height speakers are tucked into the bar itself, which means they fire upward to bounce sound off the ceiling. In a room with an average 9-foot ceiling, you'll notice the effect most clearly during scenes with overhead elements like a helicopter swooping overhead or rain falling from above. The sound lifts, giving a sense of space that's noticeably richer than a plain stereo bar, but you won't get the pinpoint precision you'd find from a full ceiling mount Atmos setup. If your primary goal is to add a little wow factor to blockbusters without rewiring the house, the height channels do the job. Dialogue clarity is where many soundbars stumble, especially when you crank the volume for a big action sequence. The LG bar uses a dedicated center channel driver that focuses on speech, and on my 55-inch 4K TV it handled a fast-talking detective series without any muffling. The built-in processing separates vocals from background noise, which means you can follow a whispering argument even when explosions are happening on the other side of the screen. That said, the bar's overall output leans a bit toward a forward-facing soundstage, so if you sit too far off-center you might notice a slight dip in vocal presence. For most couch-bound viewers, though, the clarity is a definite plus. Bass performance is often the make-or-break factor for a subwoofer-included system. The S80TY sub is wireless, sits on the floor, and draws 480 watts of power across the whole system. In a medium-sized living room, around 200 square feet, the sub gives you a satisfying thump that you actually feel during low-frequency explosions, yet it doesn't turn your walls into a shaking box. If you love that deep rumble, you'll appreciate the sub's ability to stay tight rather than boomy. On the flip side, in a smaller studio apartment the same power can feel a little overwhelming, especially if you have neighbors above you. The sub has a single volume knob on the remote, but the bar itself doesn't let you fine-tune the crossover point, which means you're stuck with the factory set balance. If you need more precise control over how much low end you get, you might find that limiting. Connectivity is another practical concern. The S80TY offers HDMI ARC, optical, and a Bluetooth 5.0 link for streaming from phones or tablets. I tested the Bluetooth connection with a couple of Android devices, and the pairing was straightforward. Just press the Bluetooth button on the remote and select LG S80TY. The audio lag was negligible for music, but when I tried a short YouTube clip with spoken word, there was a barely perceptible half-second delay. For movies, I kept the TV's audio output on HDMI ARC, which eliminated any lag entirely. The bar also supports Dolby Atmos pass-through over HDMI, so any Atmos-encoded content from a streaming service retains its object-based mix, though the actual height effect still depends on your ceiling height as mentioned earlier. Remote control friction is something most people overlook until they're in the middle of a binge and the remote starts feeling like a maze. The LG remote is a single-button device with a volume wheel, a source button, and a small menu for sound modes, standard, cinema, music, etc. I found the mode button easy to toggle between Dolby Atmos and stereo, but digging into the advanced settings like turning off the sub or adjusting the virtual surround width requires a few more presses and an on-screen menu that can be a bit dim in a dark room. If you're used to a fully featured remote with separate buttons for each mode, this could feel a little clunky. On the other hand, the simplicity means you're less likely to accidentally switch to a party mode when you just wanted to watch a drama. Now, who should actually consider buying this particular soundbar? If you already have a decent TV and you're looking to upgrade your audio without committing to a full home theater speaker set, the S80TY offers a solid middle ground. It shines for streaming services that support Dolby Atmos, such as Netflix or Disney+, where you can hear the added height cues without needing a separate ceiling speaker. It also